This video is sponsored by Atlas VPN. In the 1930s, there were many young actresses who started their careers in the age of talkies, the motion pictures with sound that surpassed the silent picture age. This began the golden age of Hollywood. But there was a thriving motion picture industry in Europe, with a new group of rising stars, such as Austrian Hedy Lamarr, Swede Zara Leander, German Marlene Dietrich, and others. All would become legends of film, but one would help win World War II. She admitted that she shunned most interviews because everyone wanted to know about her love life, affairs, and marriages. However, when it came to her scientific work, she was very ready to discuss her past projects. Who was Hedy Lamarr? How and why did she come to the United States? What was her greatest gift to her new adopted country?
Hello, I'm Colin Heaton, a veteran of the United States Army and Marine Corps, former history professor, book author, and welcome to this episode of Forgotten History.
Since we're talking about innovation and technology, you have the right to use the internet without your data being breached, and that's exactly why I want to talk to you about Atlas VPN, which is the best VPN deal on the market. Enjoy the most affordable online protection for just $1.83 per month, plus 3 months extra with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Atlas is more than just a VPN. It blocks all the malicious links, ads, and trackers, and notifies you when someone is trying to steal your data. Can't access your favorite shows on your Netflix while being abroad? Atlas VPN has you covered. Your catalog will be available even in countries where they may be restricted. Looking for something on Google? With Atlas VPN, you can search the web without someone tracking your activity. Atlas VPN protects all your devices with a single subscription. You can also get the best deals while shopping online, including Spotify and airlines, hotels, and more. Grab the big deal now because Atlas VPN Premium is just $1.83 per month plus 3 months extra, and with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Protect your privacy and get many benefits of Atlas VPN for the ridiculously low price. You can take this deal by clicking this link, which will also be in the video description below. Be quick, as it is a limited time offer. I had the great privilege of interviewing Hedy Lamarr by telephone several times and briefly in person at her home in Florida. Her story is a fascinating study in history, Hollywood, but also one of invention and patriotism. Hedy Lamarr was born Hedwig Eva Maria Kiesler on November 9, 1914 in Vienna, Austria, and she was the only child of Gertrude Trude Lichtwitz Kiesler and Emil Kiesler. Her father was a Galician Jew from Lemberg, now Lviv, Ukraine, and he was a successful banker, while her mother was classically trained as a pianist from a wealthy Budapest Jewish family but converted to Catholicism. She was privately tutored from age 4. By the time she was 10, she was a proficient pianist and dancer and could speak 4 languages. She won a children's beauty contest at age 12 and took an interest in stage acting and dancing. She was an excellent student and was doing advanced mathematics and physics before high school, as well as biological and physical sciences. At age 16, she enrolled in producer Max Reinhardt's dramatic school, and in 1930, she apparently impressed the German Reinhardt that she landed an extra role in the film Money on the Street, and then a small speaking part in Storm in a Water Glass in 1931. Reinhardt then cast her in the local play The Weaker Sex. Her performance and ability to memorize an entire production in one reading flawlessly impressed Reinhardt, who brought her to Berlin. While there, she met the Russian theater producer Alexis Granovsky, who cast her in his film The Trunks of Mr. O.F. in 1931, starring Walter Abel and Peter Lorre. In 1932, she won the lead role in the comedy No Money Needed. In 1933, she was the lead female in the groundbreaking film at the time titled Ecstasy, filmed in Czechoslovakia. She was 18 years old when she played the wife of an older man who had lost interest in her. In the film, she far exceeded the boundaries of filmmaking at the time as she ran through the woods and swam in a lake, naked on both occasions. Leni Riefenstahl called it the most daring event on film that anyone had ever seen. The film became one of the most popular in the world, especially in Europe, and as a result it was banned and could not be shown in theaters after its first release in some countries. Underground theaters illegally showed the film in Germany, and Adolf Hitler banned its showing. Many prominent people around the world purchased their own reels of the film, including Louis B. Mayer, one of the owners of the giant studio Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, and Italian dictator Benito Mussolini, who was offered a lot of money for his copy, but he refused to sell. The film was banned in the United States. After seeing the film, Louis B. Mayer said that she was, quote, the most beautiful woman in the world, and he wanted to sign her. Ecstasy was banned practically everywhere due to the nude scenes, which of course made it even more popular and valuable on the black market. Mussolini reportedly refused to sell his copy at any price, and according to Lieutenant General Hans Bauer, despite his ban on showing the film, Hitler kept a private copy as well. Propaganda Minister Joseph Goebbels also had a copy, as did producer and actress Leni Riefenstahl, who called the film elegant during one of her interviews. On August 10, 1933, she married industrialist and ammunition maker Friedrich Mandl at the Karlskirche when she was 18 years old and he was 33. Mandl was chairman of Hirtenberger Patronenfabrik, a leading Austrian armaments firm founded by his father, Alexander Mandl. She said that Mandl was not very enthused by her film career and wanted her to stop acting, making her a virtual prisoner in their home at Schloss Schwarzenau. Mandl had close social and business ties to the Italian government, selling munitions to the country, and although, like Hedy, his own father was Jewish, had ties to the Nazi regime of Germany as well. Hitler and Mussolini were in fact frequent guests in their home, along with other luminaries such as Martin Bormann, Joseph Goebbels, Hermann Goering, Leni Riefenstahl, and others. Oftentimes, Hedy would join Mandl in his business meetings. He was working with scientists, designers, and engineers and other industrialists in developing military technology, especially better ammunition types. Hedy absorbed all that she heard, because she already had her own thoughts on various subjects. She became very knowledgeable of weapon systems and what the Nazis were working on. One subject that she locked onto was torpedoes. Hedy stated that she could not remain with Mandl anymore. She was constantly observed by his spies, but managed to flee to Paris and then London in 1937. Mandl later had a falling out with Reichsmarschall Hermann Goering, which later saw his property seized and he fled to Switzerland. It was in London where she met Louis B. Mayer, the Jewish magnate of MGM, and he offered to sign her for the staggering sum of $500 per week on an exclusive contract if she came to the United States. She left MGM in 1945 and started her own production company with John Chertok, which was not successful. She returned to MGM in 1950. During her time with MGM and long after she made an impact and was cast in a series of films over the next quarter century, such as Algiers, Boomtown, Comrade X, Ziegfeld Girls, White Cargo, Come Live With Me, I Take This Woman, Lady of the Tropics, My Favorite Spy, Tortilla Flat, Loves of Three Queens, Her Highness and the Bellboy, H.M. Pullum Esquire, Shower of Stars, The Female Animal, The Heavenly Body, The Story of Mankind, and possibly her most famous in America, Samson and Delilah, playing opposite notable actors of the day such as Clark Gable, Charles Boyer, James Stewart, Claudette Colbert, Robert Young, Spencer Tracy, Bob Hope, Walter Pidgeon, and Victor Mature. Hedy always saw what she perceived to be an evil in Hitler, Mussolini, and the rest of the political types she had met. She loathed Joseph Goebbels, who took charge of the German and Austrian film industry. After the Nuremberg laws were passed in 1935, there was a systematic removal of Jews from the entertainment industry. When the world was made aware of Kristallnacht, that told her that she made the right choice. During her early years, she dated aircraft manufacturer and designer Howard Hughes, who valued her intellect and creativity, and she actually drew sketches for newer aerodynamic designs by observing nature, such as birds and fish, and mathematically analyzing coefficient drag and resistance models. She also designed a new type of traffic light that was more efficient, and invented tablets that would dissolve in water and make carbonated drinks in several flavors. She also had an idea that she put to design on using radio waves as a motion sensor, which we see today on motion sensor doorways. After the United States entered World War II, Hedy then decided that through her Hollywood political and military connections, as well as her own knowledge of German technology and capabilities, that she could be of assistance. Hedy knew, from her knowledge of science, technology, and even music, that sound harmonics were important. She joined music composer George Antheil, and they worked out various musical combinations, harmonics, to try and prove a few theories that she had. What she developed was what we call today frequency hopping, which is the basic technology that was originated by Guglielmo Marconi in 1899 in his development of wireless radio, although Hedy had experimented with frequency selective reception, working to improve upon the works of Marconi, Jonathan Zenneck, Leonard Danilowicz, Nikola Tesla, and William Berthollich, who was awarded a U.S. patent 1869659A for an electromechanical device using a version of wave hopping. Hedy worked on one that was somewhat unique, that could both decrypt and encrypt both incoming and outgoing radio transmissions by using frequency wave hopping at alternating and non-recurring levels, bouncing the signal to eliminate interference. Then Hedy and Antheil worked together on a wireless communication system to improve the efficiency of American torpedoes. They used a grand piano to choose and test their frequencies. The result was the creation of an acoustic and radio-guided type of torpedo, later called Fido, Mark 24, which was the forerunner of the submarine-launched Mark 27, nicknamed Cutie torpedo, and the echo-ranging Mark 32. Hedy already knew that the Germans had been trying to devise better torpedoes based on a sound detection system. In fact, the German Fock T4, being the first homing torpedo that was being developed in the 1930s, entered service in March 1943, and U.S. Mark 24 torpedoes entered service about the same time. The two other American torpedoes in use were the steam turbine Mark 14, which was very unreliable due to a flawed detonator mechanism, and the fact that it ran deeper than set, and the electric Mark 18, which did not produce a bubble trail, but also had problems with accuracy, and it was slower than the Mark 14. Antheil and Hedy met Samuel Stuart McKeon, professor of radioelectrical engineering at Caltech. He was hired for a year to use his resources to create the prototypes for testing. Upon successful testing, Hedy hired the Los Angeles legal firm of Lyon & Lyon for submitting her patent, which was approved, becoming U.S. Patent 2,292,387 on August 11, 1942, filed under her then married name of Hedy Kiesler Markey. She decided to take her research notes and testing results to Washington, D.C. and the Pentagon, hoping to be of assistance to the Department of the Navy and supporting the war effort. It was labeled Secret Communication System, Patent Case File 2292387, and proposed to the Navy. It was due to her working on these projects that saw her turn down the lead role in the classic film Casablanca, starring Humphrey Bogart, and actress Ingrid Bergman finally took the lead female role. However, given the misogyny of the day, the U.S. Navy dismissed her research, telling her she'd be more useful selling war bonds. Wanting to help in any way she could, she agreed, raising $25 million. That research for a better acoustic torpedo started in 1942 after Hedy visited the Pentagon. They took her information. They did not give her credit, but they did take the research and began research and development. Many companies were brought on board, such as Bell Labs and Harvard Underwater Sound Laboratory, working on the homing system, Bell's manufacturing division, Western Electric worked on the battery, General Electric designed the propulsion and steering motors, the David Taylor Model Basin was tasked to develop the outer shell development. The Columbia University Sound Laboratory was also involved in the research, and the entire project was overseen by the U.S. Navy. The first successful test was done by dropping the torpedo from a bomber, which successfully tracked its target by locking onto the signal of the propellers, as well as guided bombs, which the Germans were experimenting with, which included a scrambler that prevented a jamming of the signal, interfering with the contact efficiency. Lamarr wanted to join the National Inventors Council, but NIC member Charles F. Kettering and others rebuffed her request, saying that she could better help the war effort by using her fame to sell more war bonds, and she was not a credentialed and established scientist despite her patents. Like all Hollywood celebrities of the day, she embarked on a war bond selling campaign again as soon as the war started, often joining other celebrities such as the wife of Clark Gable, Carole Lombard, before her death, and often touring with a sailor named Eddie Rhodes. Rhodes was planted in the crowd at each Lamarr appearance, and she would call him up on the stage and ask the audience if she should give him a kiss. The crowd would say yes, and Hedy would agree to kiss him if the people in the crowd bought war bonds. Once the bonds were purchased, she would kiss Rhodes. All of this technology from all sources was the genesis behind many of today's guided weapon systems, and Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, LoRaN, and GPS, all which use direct sequence spread spectrum, although all of these later technologies were far more advanced. We also have the Milstar network of military communication satellites, which also uses the same basic technology. Sir Arthur C. Clarke, credited with being a prime figure in satellite development, and there was a great competition in the field, but Hughes Aircraft Company secured the contract due to their technology based upon Hedy Lamarr's research for their first two systems and a TRW geosynchronous satellite for their third system. On April 6, 1965, ComSat's first satellite, Early Bird, was launched from Cape Canaveral. Global satellite communications had begun. During her lifetime, she came up with ideas for a chair that revolved in and out of the shower, a better traffic light than the previous version, and of course her carbonated drinks and a fluorescent dog collar. In 1997, Hedy and her co-inventor of frequency hopping, Antheil, won the Pioneer Award from the Electronic Frontier Foundation. In addition to this, the film Bombshell, the Hedy Lamarr story, released in 2017, drew attention to her significant contributions to modern technology. Since then, articles from Forbes, the Smithsonian, Biography, PBS, and the New York Times have all helped reshape what people choose to remember and honor about Lamarr. Writer Howard Sharp interviewed her and gave his impression. Quote, "Hedy has the most incredible personal sophistication. She knows the peculiar European art of being womanly. She knows what men want in a beautiful woman, what attracts them, and she forces herself to be these things. She has magnetism and warmth, something that neither Dietrich nor Garbo has managed to achieve." Author and historian Richard Rhodes describes her assimilation into American culture. Quote, "Of all the European émigrés who escaped Nazi Germany and Nazi Austria, she was one of the very few who succeeded in moving into another culture and becoming a full-fledged star herself. There were so very few who could make the transition linguistically or culturally. She really was a resourceful human being, I think because of her father's strong influence on her as a child." American actor, pilot, and icon Brigadier General James M. Stewart said of her, "Hedy was always a very serious actress. She memorized her lines flawlessly. She was very intense and never lost focus on the set. Quite a lady indeed." Hedy Lamarr did not just adapt to American culture, she embraced it, but her life was full of turmoil. She had a substance abuse problem, primarily alcohol, but worked through it, and had 2 arrests in 1966 and 1991 for minor shoplifting, which was attributed to simple inattention to detail and forgetfulness, and not malicious or premeditated actions, resulting in the charges being dropped in both cases. She had earned and lost a fortune, estimated at around $30 million, but she retired comfortably, and she lived a rather reclusive life. One point of interest was that she never took any money for the patents and inventions that she gave to the U.S. military. In her own words, "It was just doing my part to help win the war." She died on January 19, 2000 at her home in Castleberry, Florida, to which she had moved after leaving Miami. She adopted a son, James, in 1939 during her second marriage to Jean Markey. She went on to have two biological children, Denise, born in 1945, and Anthony, born in 1947, with her third husband, actor John Loder, who also adopted James. She left her estranged son, James, out of her will, and he sued, but this settled for $50,000. On August 27, 2019, an asteroid was named after her, 32730 Lamarr.
Thank you for watching Forgotten History. Please click like, subscribe, and share. Send us comments and show ideas, and we will get back to you as soon as possible. Until next time.